Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Robert and today is the big day that we have been waiting for literally for months. We're finally getting my 370Z put on the dyno. For those of you that are new to the channel, over the past few months I have been working to supercharge this car. I have been installing the Top Gun's Ace kit, have been working with Eugene Turkov, a remote master tuner with EcuTek, to get the car all tuned up, and it's just about ready to hit the dyno. Today is huge, guys. It is the culmination of years of ambition, months of planning and hard work trying to get this kit installed, and today we finally get to know how much power is my car going to make. I'm going to be taking it to JoeTech Motorsports today to see how much power it makes. We'll be doing a few dyno runs there. JoeTech actually is the one that tuned my car in the past, back when I first installed test pipes on this vehicle and when I was still naturally aspirated. We'll be doing a few dyno runs to see how much power it makes, both with some of the pre-filters on, which is how the car is going to be driven normally, as well as when I'm just running the turbo guard to see what the maximum power is I can get out of this kit. I will also have an additional dyno day with this car in the future where I'm going to be running a slightly more aggressive tune, and to talk to you guys a little bit about the impact of knock sensitivity and knock threshold manipulation, but that's for a separate video. Let's get this car on the dyno today and see what she's making. Before we do that, we do need to get her cleaned up because she is just looking quite filthy right now. I don't think I've actually cleaned her off since about October when the Supercharger kit was first installed, and I'm not about to send her off to the dyno looking like this. So let's get it off to the car wash. So we do have one more thing that we have to do before we send the car off to the dyno, and that is to flash the car one more time. Eugene has been revising the tune ever since I got the car running again in December. I've collected some data logs for him this past week from the last revision of the tune, and now, as of last night, he has one more update before we send it off to the dyno. This update probably won't net me any additional power. It's mainly for daily driving, some small fuel trim and timing adjustments, but might as well get the car updated. So let's go ahead and get it connected, flash it, and then let's send it off. Here we go. Of course, I'm not really going to feel much of a difference. Anytime we've done a revision to these tunes, the car basically feels the same. But the only way to tell how much more power we're making is to actually get it on the dyno. So let's go, guys.
Like empires, we rise and then we fall. Can the tides calling, calling through it all? Titans watching, waiting. Once rivals, now we sit patient. At the end of the world, where will we be? Immortality is calling. Speak our names forever. Eclipse the world together. Gonna build an empire. This is what we've been waiting for. They don't know we've been keeping score. This is our destiny. Can you hear the calling?
That's not bad though. That car over there, he had a different filter on it. He made like 420 or so.
Yeah.
That filter helps.
And as it turns out, these pre-filters are very restrictive, costing the car almost a pound of boost each. I'll admit the first run had me a little bit worried that I wouldn't even break the 500 mark, but as we began taking filters off and doing more runs, the results were starting to look more promising. Keep watching to see the dyno results.
At the end
Guys, we did it. Yes! We hit my goal, and with quite a lot of margin. They're pulling the car off of the dyno right now and bringing it back around. We're gonna get the pre-filters put back on there, take the car back out, and then I'll share with you guys how much horsepower she managed to make without any of the pre-filters. The dyno numbers are great, guys, but the way this car feels, it's just amazing. I mean, I've done other mods in the past. I've put test pipes on the car, I've gotten it tuned. It might make an additional 10 or 20 horsepower or so. And yeah, some people will claim, yeah, you can really feel the difference, but when you put a supercharger on it and you're making as much power as I am right now, oh, you can feel the difference, all right. Alright, so before I share you guys the dyno results on how much power this car made today, I want to talk to you about the response that I got from you, the subscribers, on the question that I posted on how much power you think that I was going to make on the dyno. So a whopping 47% of you said that I was probably going to make about 450 to 550 wheel horsepower, pretty reasonable. Another 40% thought it would be a little bit more ambitious, we'll be hitting about 550 to 650. 7% of you said that I would just be making all the power, it's going to break the dyno, sending pistons and rods along the way. Nice. And then 7% of you said that I was just slow and would be making absolutely no power at all. I don't know what to say. You guys just have no faith in me? What's going on? All right, so enough of the waiting. Let's answer the question, how much power did I make today? With none of the pre-filters put on the car, just running the turbo guard, this car made 523 wheel horsepower. That's again, with no pre-filters put on the car, I was running roughly about 14 to 14 and a half pounds of boost, at least according to the data logs from the previous day. Unfortunately, I was supposed to take data logs on all of my runs, and I only data logged one of them, so I don't have all the data log results. But based on previous logs, this car hit about 14 to 14 and a half PSI the previous night, so that's probably what it hit on the dyno. And then the tune is also fairly conservative. I want to emphasize to you guys that when I was getting this car tuned, safety of the motor was extremely important to me. I didn't want it to be aggressively timed, so that's what I emphasized to Eugene when we were getting it tuned. So at 523 wheel horsepower at 14 to 14 and a half pounds of boost on 93 octane, like, I'm really happy. I was actually anticipating getting about 525 wheel horsepower. That was my goal, and we hit it absolutely spot on the mark. So I had also done a couple of runs with the pre-filters on. I started with that first run with all three pre-filters, and as you guys just saw, I made about 458 horsepower. Honestly, I was a little bit nervous. I was anticipating maybe making closer to 500 with all three of the pre-filters on, but as it turns out, those pre-filters are very restrictive. I was probably only making about 11 pounds of boost with all three of those filters on. On the second run, I ended up having only two pre-filters, and we made right around 467 wheel horsepower. However, the guy that was doing the dyno runs that day ended up lifting really early, so it didn't actually climb all the way up in the power band, so realistically, I was probably closer to 475. And then on that third run, I was starting to get a little bit more confident. We made 498 horsepower with one of the pre-filters on the car. And then, of course, as I just said, with all the pre-filters off, 523 horsepower. So, as I said, the belt does need to be tightened. There may be some more power to be had as we finally finish off the tune, but I'm really happy with where the car is at. 523 wheel horsepower is really nice. So now I want to get serious with you guys for a second and talk to you about something that I've pretty much seen no other person talk about in their dyno videos. In pretty much any dyno video I have ever watched, you know, they do the pull, you get to hear the exhaust, maybe you get to see a couple of cool flames shoot out and hear some of the blow-off valve noises. They post up their peak horsepower numbers and torque curves, and that's it. But nobody seems to be talking about how well the car seems to be running or what's going on behind the scenes. Now, when I was doing each of my 4 dyno runs, I actually data logged one of them. I was hoping to data log all 4, but I was distracted working the cameras and everything, so I was only able to get one data log pull, and that was when I had the single filter installed on the car. And I want to show you guys now what my knock and knock threshold is looking like. You can see from each of these plots where I'm showing the knock threshold and the knock sensor values that I'm getting absolutely no knock events occurring during the pull. And the reason for this is because I requested specifically from Eugene, my tuner, not to time the car too aggressively. I didn't want to get any knock events. I wanted to make sure that the motor was tuned fairly conservatively, that it would be safe, that we don't have any risk of accidentally getting some really bad detonation, which could cause the engine to have problems. It's also worth noting that whenever the engine did have knock, especially early on in the tuning process, when we were trying to dial in how much tuning this car could run, we can see that the car is actually pulling ignition timing rather than ignoring the knock event to try and make power. So this is also something that's really important to look for if you're getting your car tuned and you have the capability to data log. But yeah, drivability and safety of the engine were absolutely paramount for me, and it's good to see that the tune is not overly aggressive and that it's meeting my requirements. In terms of drivability and from the perspective of the butt dyno, I've been daily driving this car for about 4,000 miles now, and the car has been running absolutely great, apart from a small hiccup related to the install where I may have nicked the VTC solenoid and it caused a couple of misfires. But apart from that, I mean, the car's been running great. The throttle response is spot on. The car almost feels like stock until you begin to get up in the rev range and build boost. So it's just really smooth to drive. I'm not hearing any weird detonation events when the car starts up in the morning, and the car doesn't sound like it's struggling to start either. So yeah, this car has been fairly reliable so far for the first 4,000 miles. And these are the sort of things that I wish people would talk more about, but unfortunately peak horsepower numbers sell, and oftentimes reliability of the tune is only secondary whenever people are trying to chase those big horsepower numbers. So this is just a point that I wanted to really emphasize on my build, is that I've gotten a very reliable tune. We are making good power. We're not breaking any horsepower numbers. I'm not making 600 plus horsepower on pump gas, but I'm making really good power. I'm actually hitting the goal that I was setting out for myself. I wanted to make 525 wheel horsepower, and that's exactly what we are making. So I'm absolutely happy with the tune that I've got on this car right now. So the build is now complete. Well, I say complete, there's actually a couple of small issues that I'm still having to iron out. For instance, I haven't told you guys yet, but the fuel gauge on this car is a little bit out of whack since I installed the radium surge tank system. I've got an idea of what's going on, but basically the car reads completely empty when I've still got about a third of a tank left. So I need to get in there and try and fix that, but that's going to be for a separate video. I'm also having intermittent issues with my clutch pedal sensor. Sometimes when I go to start the car, it doesn't read that the clutch pedal is actually depressed. So I need to go and try and understand what's going on there. I think it's the clutch pedal switch, but there may be something else going on that's preventing me from sometimes being able to start the car. So there's just some minor issues like that I'm still trying to work out. But yeah, the build is for the most part pretty much complete. It's been one hell of a journey, and there was a lot of work that had to go into getting this kit installed on the car. Did everything go smoothly? Fuck me, no. There was a lot of issues that we ran into throughout this entire process. Anywhere from me bypassing the fuel pressure regulator when I first was installing the fuel pump because I didn't know how the factory fuel pump housing worked, to me using the incorrect type of wire whenever I was installing my relays and nearly starting a fire in my passenger footwell, to me accidentally hitting the VTC solenoid with a hammer, causing that to break, and then causing my car to break down on the side of the road. Even just last night, right before we were getting ready to send the car off to the dyno, we ran into a fueling problem. It turns out one 340 liter per hour fuel pump is just not enough to be able to make the horsepower that I was looking for. Whenever I was doing a fourth gear pull on the new revision of the tune, I ran into a problem where the fuel pressure was actually beginning to drop because that single fuel pump wasn't able to keep up. But fortunately, I had installed a second fuel pump in the radium surge tank system, and it just required me to flip a single switch to be able to enable that second pump. Moving forward, I'll probably end up installing a boost switch to be able to enable the second pump so fuel starvation doesn't end up occurring. But to say that the build went smoothly would definitely be inaccurate. I learned a lot throughout this entire journey about things like the fuel system to tuning. It's just been quite an experience, and now the car is running really well, and I'm happy with where it's sitting. And that's going to about wrap it up for this video. For those of you that watched my 2021 plans video, you may have heard that I teased a road trip that I'll probably be doing towards the end of the year. And I've been working on the itinerary for that a little bit, and it's beginning to take form now. So this trip is going to be out to the West Coast. I am going to be going as far out as San Francisco. I'm going to be meeting up with Eugene Turkov there. This entire trip is going to be about 5,000 to 6,000 miles long. It's going to go through about 10 states. There's a lot of cool things that I'll be seeing along the way. So yeah, I'm super excited to hit the road once again. I can't wait to take another road trip in this car. If it's looking like my route is going to take me through your area and you want to meet up, see this car in person, and maybe show me your build, hit me up on Instagram, send me a message and let me know. I'd love to meet some of you guys in person and check out your builds if I happen to be coming through your area. But yeah, super excited for this road trip. Absolutely can't wait to hit the road again.
vampire.